Thank you, Latika. Am I audible, please?
Yes, Deepak.
Thank you. Thank you, Latika. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Pleasure meeting you on this Global Azure virtual event. I wish we could have it in person, and I'm sure we'll be having it soon as the pandemic goes down and as things improve. We used to do these sessions in person a couple of years back, but in the last 2 years, it's been a virtual mode. We'd love to see you in person next year. Uh, Today's topic, as was mentioned by Latika, is intelligent automation. Let me just share my presentation very quickly. Are you able to see the presentation, please?
Yes.
It's visible. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sure. So I would basically talk today about intelligent automation from a ValueMomentum perspective in terms of what we mean by intelligent automation, and then try to tie up to the various components of Microsoft Azure stack, which make up the intelligent automation, and also talk about the various elements in detail in terms of what are the different elements in the tech stack and how they contribute towards the intelligent automation use cases. We will follow it with a few case studies and a live demo on extreme automation as well. Also, before going into the intelligent automation specifically, I would also probably talk briefly about the role of automation in digital transformation, and also about the famed Microsoft digital transformation free digital feedback loop, which will act as a guiding force for working on Microsoft technologies in different areas. Very quickly. So essentially, what do we mean when we say intelligent automation? In my view, it is the application of automation technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, business process management, process mining, and robotic process automation and low code to eliminate repetitive mundane tasks and free employees bandwidth and time for more creative endeavors. So basically, it's not just about RPA when we talk about intelligent automation, like most people usually think about. We also include a lot of other things like low code, AI, ML, cognitive services, business process automation, and other things in addition to the commonly thought of areas in automation. I'll tell you as we go ahead in terms of how all these various elements come together to present a holistic end-to-end perspective and a holistic end-to-end solution for most of your automation problems. In fact, this is a very similar term to hyperautomation, which is recently being used by Gartner as one of the top technology trends for this year. Just to look at what Gartner is saying on this. Gartner says low-code, RPA, and AI are driving growth in hyperautomation. So these are the three cusp of three forces, nexus of three forces, I would say, which is really driving automation in a big way. There's a lot of market for this and a potential for that is increasing tremendously in the years to come. This is extremely important for digital transformation, and this is in fact the bare backbone of digital transformation. If you look at the digital transformation for most companies, the way we're going to start usually is first by digitalization, which means automating the basic manual work which is being done using a deterministic approach and using a rule-based approach. The second phase of digital transformation would be called as digitalization, which is more about improving the current process and making them more efficient and more effective by applying some of these automation technologies and by also improving the customer experience that is being given to the end users. But so far, we have been only focusing on the operational benefits of digital transformation. When we go on to the digital transformation stage of the digital learning curve, what happens is it will be then having many elements which will contribute both to the top line and bottom line of the firms that go through the digital transformation journey. Digital transformation, in my opinion, is a never-ending process. It's always going to be, a journey in progress. Because once we reach the final stage, optimization, the process optimization stage, there is no ideal process or ideal state. There is always a continuous improvement and optimization that goes on, and therefore digital is going to be a process which is going to be there, and it's going to be fine-tuned along with the organization strategy from time to time, based on the changes in the market, the dynamics, environment, and so on. And therefore, automation certainly forms the crux of the entire digital transformation process. If you look at the role of automation specifically, I would like to say that automation, along with digital transformation, the blend of two forces leads to the formation of a key which unlocks business growth. It's all about modernizing the application portfolio, modernizing your process, automating your process, upgrading your skills, creating digital roles. For example, in a bank, if you have a role called as, let us say, cash dispenser, or a role called as an accountant, these are the roles. These are not the process. Earlier, we talked about in the earlier days about automating a specific process, let us say lead to cash or a procurement to procurement, lead to procure, and other kinds of process which were existing, which are being automated across functions like sales, marketing, finance, and so on. But at this stage of automation we are talking about uh, automating a role itself, removing a role and replacing it by a digital worker. So the roles we're going to be identifying in automation process would enable certain roles which are mundane and repetitive in nature to be actually replaced by a bot completely in entirety. And those roles and the people in those roles can be leveraged for more interesting and more creative activities that require human endeavor. If you look at the Microsoft essentially themes of digital transformation, they look at the four pillars, which are empowering employees, using digital technologies, applying digital technologies to improve and empower employees and improve their productivity, engaging customers, making the experience top notch, optimize operations, which is all about operations excellence and trying to have the best in class operational effectiveness and efficiency as well. And finally, transforming your basic products and services. And that spans across areas like modern workplace, business applications, apps and infrastructure, and finally, data, AI, analytics. This is the famous Microsoft feedback loop. I won't delve into it too much, but for the sake of providing a holistic end-to-end picture, the different pillars that manage, which I talked about before, engaging customers, optimizing operations, transforming products, and empowering employees. These are going to be in a continuous feedback loop wherein the data which is input into this and is output from these various pillars is sent into a central, let me call it as an intelligent system which receives data. It could be thought of as an enterprise brain, or it could be thought of as a bionic brain in some sense, which will actually receive data in a feedback loop continuously and return back data to the various pillars, which is analyzed, insightful, and which is going to be more applicable to that specific thing to perform whatever act it is doing with utmost efficiency and utmost effectiveness. That is, it will help in actually taking data from customers' experience, for example, and provide back inputs to the experience system so that it can deliver top-notch experience. Same thing about operations. The central brain or the enterprise brain takes data about the operations and sends back data to the systems, which actually help in optimizing the operations and so on. This is the theme of the basic Microsoft feedback loop, and we'll quickly get back to the role automation plays in the entire enterprise ecosystem. If you look at the Microsoft stack for the intelligent automation, we're covering the different elements of the enterprise stack. Obviously, in most of these elements of automation, intelligent automation, artificial intelligence and and machine learning play an extremely important role because that acts as the intelligence layer or the so-called crux on the core of the enterprise digital brain. Low-code, no-code apps in a very big way contribute towards automation because wherever there is a white space, wherever there are manual process, wherever there are Excel sheets being used, wherever there are notes being used, physical notes being used, and in all those cases, wherever there are phygital touchpoints with the customers, low-code, no-code apps can be used to quickly build and interface and bridge the gaps in terms of manual process. Cognitive process automation is one which actually helps in creating the digital roles or digital workers by actually trying to mimic the cognitive senses of the human beings, like, for example, identifying pictures in the photographs, scanning text or reading text which is there in a photograph or image, converting speech to text, converting text to speech, and so on, doing language translation and multiple other things, which are able to, which are used to process various activities required in an automated fashion. RPA, yes, RPA is very, very helpful in terms of trying to put together data from multiple applications, disparate applications together, so as to ensure a smooth interface of data flow, which is required for multiple systems to work together without putting much pressure or manual work for copying and pasting data from multiple applications and following a specific process flow and a workflow. And finally, business process management, process mining. Needless to say, process management is going to be the key because ultimately the organization has process, and automating the process with certain set of metrics is going to be extremely important for the organization success. In terms of the artificial intelligence, and machine learning, the first component of intelligent automation, we have certain building blocks in place. The first one is Azure Cognitive Services. These are used to actually, these are the crux of Microsoft stack in the AI and ML area. In addition to the custom services built using various frameworks like TensorFlow, PyTorch, and so on. The crux is basically having various services in the areas of speech, language, vision, search, decision making, and so on, which are so extremely important for things like image identification, for things like mm, recognizing a specific language input, along with identifying the language, also understanding the input being given in a natural language processing mode, processing language itself, using natural language processing, trying to interpret the language, find the semantics, find the intended meaning based on the language. That is what is being used for text-based queries that are given to systems, which responds back with an appropriate summary, and also various capabilities like creating summaries of documents automatically, responding to questions and answers, using some of these features like FAQ bot from Microsoft. Azure search is extremely important and powerful, and I think leading in the area of semantic search by looking at the intent of what the user is asking and trying to dig into the archives to which it has access to and give out the exact answer to the people concerned. That's therefore, in many of the cases, the Azure Cognitive Services can be simply called like an API on the cloud, just like an API on the cloud, which takes an input and gives an output. For example, if you for example give the upload an image of a specific person who's a popular personality, it can actually pretty much return you back the name of the person and a few details about the person like his age and other things, occupation and other things. And there is also a lot of other technologies like biometrics, which can be put into place by Azure Cognitive Services. Things like iris identification, face detection, and so on, which can be used for automatic login and automatic processing of systems. Azure ML Workbench is a very enterprise-grade learning platform, and enterprise-grade application platform, which is used for building custom workflows and custom data analysis. You can actually build from the scratch, creating the models, training the algorithms from the scratch for a specific set of data from various sources you gather, and then use it for either building machine learning models for predicting, forecasting, fraud detection, and multiple other areas where you would like to work on. And you can actually very easily using the Workbench host this custom API as an API on the cloud by a simple click and flow process, very similar to what you have experienced in Azure Cognitive Services. You can actually build a custom API and expose it through an API, and you can have the backend engine running on Azure cloud. Finally, we have very powerful data science virtual machines, which are used to, which usually have pre-installed components of all the popular machine learning systems, and they can be used by advanced developers for building something that is very sophisticated, requiring a lot of depth and requiring a lot of complexity involved, where we have to build something from scratch, and which requires a very, very specialized approach to developing things. Moving on very quickly, the next thing, of course, is business process mining and process management. Of course, in the area of process management, we have these Microsoft Dynamics set of products, which includes the customer relationship management products and the enterprise resource planning products like finance and operations, which look at the entire process of looking at the various process and implementing the various processes across enterprise, such as sales, marketing, service, finance, operations, accounting, logistics, supply chain, and so on. It is used to implement various processes across the organization, and is one of the competitive CRM, ERP, SCM, and finance and accounting applications available in the market. The advantage of Microsoft Dynamics is that it's got a Dataverse or a common data services platform, which ensures all data that is available or that is created using Dynamics can be accessed by other applications by the means of a set of APIs exposed on top of the Dataverse or the common data platform. This common data platform can also be leveraged by low-code applications like Power Apps or even other automation applications, RP applications, be it Microsoft or even others. Like, for example, this can be leveraged and accessed by third-party legacy applications as well as applications from other vendors to ensure continuity. This is where the entire concept of composable apps comes in, wherein you can use apps from different service providers, different cloud providers, different product vendors, and that can be made to access through a layer of APIs, the entire data which is being put on a common data platform, and it can be used to build a continuous integrated system with an end-to-end perspective of the entire operation. That's where your automation comes in, wherein you actually build end-to-end process flows across the organization by putting together the various pieces like a jigsaw puzzle and acting as a glue between the various services, orchestrating the flow across the various pieces in the puzzle, and giving the desired result to the end user. API gateway is again a very important thing in process management, wherein you can actually host a very since very semantic and a very hierarchical range of APIs in a very structured manner, which can then be redirected to either the logic or code which is written on individual servers or maybe even on Azure functions, either within the cloud or on premise, and then thereby acting as a gateway to the various APIs that are exposed. This is one of the backbone of the entire microservices management approach in Microsoft platform. Enterprise Service Bus is again used for integrations, and it's really used for many of the automation functions, wherein it is used to receive events and along with the event grid, receive events from various sources and help event triggered processing and event driven data processing of various elements that come in the automation process. And moving on to the most important part, which is robotic process automation. In fact, robotic process automation, I would actually say, is an interim solution, not necessarily the best solution we have for trying to integrate various applications. Like I said, by using automation and robotic process automation, we are trying to glue together the various applications to have a seamless flow and exchange of data between them, and also ensure that the data from all the applications is presented in an end-to-end manner, holistic manner, in a 360-degree view to the end customer. So ideally, we should be using APIs with different applications to do this integration. That is the standard enterprise gold standard for the enterprise grade integration, using microservices and APIs for integration. However, because of the cost involved and because of the efforts involved in building APIs for legacy applications, robotic process automation, in some sense, using tools like Power Automate, bridges the gap and reduces the need and avoids the need to use APIs and create APIs and consume them by having a different mechanism to bind together the various applications, and by actually ensuring there is a orchestration of flow across applications, by observing the way the application works, recording the various actions, and also reading whatever is the input given by the application, and also reading what is the output given by the various applications to ensure there is a structure and order in place and the user gets the desired results. Other thing in RPA is, of course, I think the power behind the RPA is the Microsoft Power Platform, spanning across Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. Power Virtual Agents are an important aspect because they're mostly around building automated bots with a sequence of rules and logic in a very easy drag and drop kind of a manner, building intelligent bots and intelligent agents which can be used to perform certain roles and certain functions. Power Automate is the orchestration layer, which is actually used as a glue for connecting the various applications throughout. And it can be also, like our friend Prakash showed in the logic apps area, can be used to perform a lot of functions similar to logic apps in a much more user-friendly manner. And that is where the entire concept of low code with Power Apps and Power Automate make a very compelling value proposition for the end users to be able to build their applications. And we've got tons of data connectors and also the access to the common data model or dataverse for the entire platform. And Power BI, needless to say, is one of those powerful tools for data analytics, which can provide a very comprehensive and a very detailed analytics, including the addition of custom-made AI ML models in Python or other languages, which you can actually just snap them on like add-ons, and you can actually invoke those models from within Power BI. The same thing in Power Apps and Power Automate. Any of these AI and ML things which we looked at before, and any of the APIs and other things we looked at before, can be invoked comfortably from within Power Apps and Power Automate, so as to get a layer of intelligence, amplify and augment the system and application using intelligence across the board. In fact, if you look at the app connectors for Power Automate and Power Apps primarily, you have more than 470 connectors and counting today. And there's so many connectors that make it very easy for you to connect to any application, and by using the properties of the connectors, very quickly get things done. So for example, somebody uploads a document onto OneDrive. You could just use the OneDrive connector, use the credentials, and select the folder where the document is going to be uploaded. And then once it happens, the trigger happens, and then it comes to Power Automate. And there you could actually say that set another action saying that once a document is uploaded into OneDrive, you can actually send a mail to some user, some predefined user, or you can actually send a workflow for approval through a web application, or you can actually send something to a Salesforce application, or you can actually send something to a Google Sheets, like what Prakash was showing earlier. Multiple things. It works with Skype, Slack, multiple messaging platforms, and it also works with a series of databases like MySQL, Amazon S3. It works with DynamoDB, multiple things it works with. So many connectors for almost every known product in the world. That's the beauty of Power Apps, which can be used for building very quick and very easy to use applications in a matter of moment. And finally, I won't go into this in detail, but Microsoft Bot Framework acts as a key in building assistants and bots, more so chat bots, conversational bots, which can be used for actually creating the various charts and creating various uh, functionality involving the conversational agents. So essentially, these bots or these agents work with multiple channels such as Skype, Outlook, Teams, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and so on. Works with a multitude of channels, and they take input in both text and voice format in any language, which is supported by Microsoft Bot Framework, and that includes a lot of languages, including many Indian languages like Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, Hindi, and so on. A lot of languages are supported, both in written form as well as in the voice format. Okay, so they very powerfully work. Actually, Microsoft PowerBot can be trained by using usually the language identification framework called as LUI, which is more of the framework for trying to train the language inputs that comes in from the various channels of input. LUI is one of the frameworks, which is the Natural Language Understanding Framework, NLU framework, which can be used for training your bot. In addition, bot can also be used through a C# layer or even through a configuration mechanism. It can actually be used with various languages like C#, Python, Java, Node.js, and so on to actually create a logic and to actually see that whatever information is requested, it identifies the information through intent. For example, if I want to know what is the status of my insurance policy application at the moment, it can actually figure out what you're asking for in terms of saying that you want to know the insurance policy status at the as of today. So it takes all these things as inputs. It then asks you a question: what is the insurance policy number? Once you enter that, it actually takes the value as a parameter and invokes an API, which is probably coded by you or used by exposed by some other third-party developer. It can actually invoke the API and fetch the information from the underlying systems, the policy system, and actually showcase the output to you in terms of what the current status is. There are multitude of uses in a bot framework where it can be used to integrate with a plethora of applications using, it can actually recognize text and images using AI-based cognitive services. It can work with a lot of backend APIs, work with sources like, let us say, SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, or even core systems in insurance and finance and banking areas as well, very comfortably. And of course, there is a very powerful API in the area of Q&A, which is called as FAQ bot, which can ingest text, reams of text in a Word format or a PDF format, and can be very quickly used to configure the set of questions and answers based on the text which is being input into that agent. And this can be also supplemented by using code for multi-turn conversations, where the conversations turn, where the context changes frequently, and you have to go to a context before, and it knows the context beforehand in terms of the context which happened before the specific event, and it remembers the context and what has changed, and it remembers the past. So you can always go back to the past point in the conversation, and it knows the context without having to repeat the context. Finally, cognitive process automation. Yes, we have tools like AI builders and cognitive service I talked about, bot service we talked about. AI builder is a very simple format which can be used for simple models or AI, where you can actually create simple models by just simply ingesting data and by using auto ML-like techniques for trying to ask system to select its own algorithm which best suits the data and gives an output. You could use this as a starting point for your AI universe, and in many of the common cases, simple cases, it really works beautifully. And finally, low code, no code. Yes, it's extremely important, like I said, as I said before, because this is something which allows you to. This is something which allows you to create automations and create easy workflows, create the interim applications or stopgap applications required. White spaces are covered. All manual processes can be covered with an application. And this helps you to very quickly build applications in a matter of days, not months, days literally, and using connectors that I talked about before. And it helps you to actually build applications in a very quickly, and also deploy it on the enterprise network. So that's something which is very comes in very handy when you have to very quickly leverage existing data, existing APIs, existing investments, and build a quick app that gathers data from all the various sources and create a workflow, or creates a automation mechanism which ensures the user is able to navigate to the data seamlessly. Some case studies, very quickly before we go to the demo. I'll just talk about some case studies where we've used. You can actually go through it yourself. Use multiple tech stacks for various clients that we have in areas like banking and insurance. We've not only used Power Automate and Outlook and Office, we've also used other things in connection with Power Automate and in connection with Power Apps. Things like UiPath, Automation Anywhere, and a few other RPA tools we've used in connection with the Microsoft platform, using Azure SQL DB and using the Office and using the Outlook as well, along with the third-party applications like UiPath and Automation Anywhere, and need not necessarily limit only to the Power Automate component of Microsoft technology stack. How are we on time, Latika, please?
Deepak, we have 15 minutes left for your session.
Thank you. So can I request Himanshu to very quickly showcase the demo which we have in mind? Go ahead, Himanshu.
Sure. Thank you. Good morning, all. So let's go ahead with the demo. So in interest of time, we have a small video available with us. So we'll see that, and I'll narrate how all the details mentioned by Deepak are getting implemented with a small use case. So please let me know once you're able to see my screen.
Yes.
Thank you. So for this use case, we have a small chatbot with us, which is created in Bot Framework, and parallelly we are able to see here Power Automate window. So we have integrated both the services, the capability of chatbot with the Power Automate capabilities. So let's see what happens here. For that, Power Automate basically requires a data source. For that data source, we have currently used blob storage. So blob storage we are using for storing unstructured data. So unstructured data, so capability of Power Automate extracts all the data from a file, for example, PDF, PowerPoint presentation, or any other formats. So for that, now what we are doing here is we have a file, policy file, a document, which we will be uploading using the chatbot, which will be auto-created using the chatbot actually, and it is identified with the bot, Power Automate bot, and the Power Automate bot will fill all the details for this. We have created this page using Power Apps. So let's go ahead with the use case. So currently we will be using data which will provide in the bot, and some of the existing data in there for the policy. So this is the data set we will be using in the backend. So let's see about the conversation here. So here with the chatbot, the user can provide input in two different ways, either using an intent or using any random text. So the bot has a capability to identify the intent, like if user is requesting for a particular request which bot can fulfill, or if it is a common request which bot can suggest with some other alternatives or any other action steps. So for example, user is currently providing just an intent as hi, and the bot in the backend receives this message. So the bot will identify using the LUI that okay, so this is not a particular thing which an action item which I should perform, but the user needs some guidance. So for that, the bot will provide a small response with such message like, okay, I can help you with your queries. How can I help you? Then for example, currently we are going for a claim process here. So for that, specifically a roadside assistance area for the claim. So what happens here is the bot will ask the details from the user. It will start collecting the details. First, it is starting with the mobile number. So these all things seamlessly can be integrated with the backend database, validation of mobile number, user details, and multiple APIs can be called from the backend. If directly data source is not the database, then we can use that integration as well. So currently it is asking for the lost location. So as it is a claim, so it's just taking the details that okay, where the loss occurred. So user can provide a particular address, and let's take for the date. So these are the beautiful adaptive cards which we have created, and there is a lot more enhancement to the adaptive cards. Now we can have multiple features with the card as well. So that is a Power Pack functionality provided by bot framework. So as we can see, like this description is requested from the bot, and then once the user provides the description, the bot is basically fetching all other data from the backend based on the mobile number, and it is generating a PDF creation. So in the backend itself, the chatbot can create a PDF, and then PDF gets uploaded to the blob storage on Microsoft. So in that way, from here, the bot can hand over the next process to the RPA. So as the blob is created, now every time we cannot keep a track, right, that okay, whenever user puts a request and creates a blob storage, so Power Automate has a trigger. So as Deepak mentioned, like around 420 connectors are there. So similarly, one of those connector is our connector with storage accounts, that is blob storage. So from the blob storage, the Power Automate will identify every time whenever there is a updation of a document, it will auto trigger the bot in the backend. So let's see from the Power Automate window. So it automatically starts running. So we have not initiated it here, but it got the trigger within seconds of the document upload. And see, if you can see, it has processed multiple steps are taken place, like blob is setted or modified. So then the blob content, it is fetched using some AI ML service, optical character recognition, and multiple Azure services are incorporated to process the document. Then some of the information which required to be saved to some other data sources, say SQL server or somewhere, so that can be saved, and rest processing can take place. So now what we will see here is Power Automate desktop will run, and what all information it is fetched from the PDF document which is uploaded. So it will fill in the form which we have created in Power Apps automatically. So let's see how fast and how capable Power Automate is. So
we have 9 minutes left for your session.
Thank you, Latika. So this is the Power Apps window. This can be any web service, web application, which we can automate using the Power Apps. So we need to train our Power Automate bot, and the rest it will take place. So this is not entered manually by any user, but this is the Power Automate bot, which has been trained to fill the forms. So currently there are 5 different steps. First, it will search the policy, then it will fill the basic information, and all these informations are extracted from the PDF. So as you can see, like just a PDF uploaded, quickly it is analyzed. All the details extracted within minutes. So that's really very fast. If this thing, if a manual person would be doing, then reading a detail, entering detail, that can even add human errors. But this is done with very accuracy. So, so now vehicle details are getting provided for the final process. So adding the claim source, all the details which we have provided in the chat has also been incorporated here, and it is uploaded here. So we can have more integrations like sending a notification mail or particular message service in the backend once this process is completed. So the customer may know, right, okay, I have provided the details to the chatbot, what happened next to that? So that Power Automate will process it if there is any problem or any more detail required. So that also can be configured with Power Automate. So okay, your process is successful, unsuccessful, details required, claim approved, denied. So in that way we can do. So as you can see, like it can be automatically create a reference ID as well and integrate with the SQL service. So that was the demo where we integrated the chatbot service with the Power Automate. There is lot more to explore and experiment. Thank you for your time. Any questions, please?
Latika, after Himanshu is done, just hand over back to me for conclusion.
Yes, Deepak, over to you.
Thank you, guys. Am I audible, folks? Am I audible, please?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Good. Yeah, sure. So, guys, I think you've seen Himanshu talking about the realization of things which we talked about before in terms of the various elements of the Microsoft tech stack, completely based on Azure and the other components of the tech stack. We've seen it in action in terms of integrating chat with AI, ML, cognitive services, with custom services, with custom form reader, custom PDF generator. And finally, you've seen the way it is being able to creation of Power App screens as well, because there was no existing bridge application to connect the two applications, and storing of data back to the, persisting the data back to the database, and finally ensuring that the entire claim is processed in a what do you call, zero touch and a zero touch kind of a manner. So that is something which is very, very possible with automation, and lot many things can be achieved. Like I said, this is the era of digital workers and digital roles being created with the help of bots. You would actually see probably just imagine an office which has, for the sake of figuratively, 30% or 40% workspaces with only bots. Bots doesn't mean robots, but actually systems which are there, which is performing work silently in the background. And probably 60% would be the actual human staff. Not to say human staff is any less important. They would, like I said, be doing more important work and more creative work using the real cognitive features of the human brain. And there's a lot of things where humans can work and add value in place where bots cannot. Areas like negotiation, areas like soft skills, areas like teaching, mentoring, coaching, leadership. There's so many areas where humans can function in a much better way than bots can ever reach. So while extreme automation is already here, and it's going to only increase going ahead in future, I don't think any of us has to worry. We will have our work and we'll have our jobs. So and all is going to be well. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank the coordinators and organizers for giving me this opportunity of speaking to you. Thank you so much. Any questions? Give me 1-2 questions, maybe. Yeah.
Thanks, Deepak. I'll read the questions for you. So the first question is automation all about iterations only?
Automation is not just about iterations. Automation is also about workflow. It is also about doing manual things in a automated fashion. It is actually, for example, if you're using a human mind to calculate, it is a very simple example. To calculate, it is done manually. If you're using a calculator, it is being done automatically. Therefore, it is not just about iterations. It's also about rules, processing rules, if then else conditions. It is also deterministic processing in some sense, also including the cognitive processing of things which require some element of human intelligence, which can be instead replaced by cognitive services. There's a lot more automation than just iterations. It is actually owning, like I said, the entire job role or the entire role which is being performed by a person, not just a task, but the role itself. Imagine that is the state at which we have automation today.
Thanks, Deepak. I'll read the second question for you. If I'm already using RP and AI, is that enough for digital transformation?
That's only a small element of transformation. The digital transformation is more of a business. I would say it's more of a business function, and that will require digital transformation. Essentially, reimagines the current business model and the working process, and tries to create something that is possible with the application of technologies. And therefore, I think the technology is not for technology's sake, but it's about having a business model that will be supported by the digital technologies and that can be made possible by the digital technologies. So it's all about, essentially all about adding top line, bottom line, expanding the reach, adding more channels, marketing outreach, and those kind of things, and also creating new sources of generating revenue by the digital models than so much about automation and technology. Automation is one element of digital transformation, certainly an important element, which will actually create operational efficiencies and effectiveness by whatever we described before, and thereby add to the bottom line. But there are many other ways where you can actually improve bottom line, as well as many other ways where you can actually look at the top line. Top line is one place where automation, may not contribute that much as it does to the bottom line.
Thanks, Deepak. I'll read the next question. How does the bot understand what the customer is trying to convey?
Yeah, so essentially a bot has a machine learning model which reads the English. Let us say the customer is speaking in English and he says a simple thing like, what is my claim status number? So based on the English grammar, primarily based on the English grammar, and also based on training multiple things, you are actually associating certain elements with it. When you look at the intent to be identified based on the English grammar, which is some kind of deterministic rules, as well as based on machine learning and language processing algorithms which are come into picture, which learns by past experiences, it is able to figure out. It is a very complex algorithm, in fact, using lots of parameters and lots of convolution neural networks and deep networks which are used to create these kind of hierarchical network simulating the neuron network of a human brain, which is actually able to identify the different elements in the speech first. I may simply say in a grammar you have parts of speech, subject, object, verb, and so on, for example. In that sense, it can actually figure out certain things beyond the grammar which is defined, and therefore able to figure out what's the intent, what is the action to be done from among a set of actions defined, and also figuring out what are the parameters being passed, in terms of what is the data being asked, what is the data being input, for example, and associate the data to what data is required. Okay, so this is something which has happened in a very simple way. It's a much more complicated process. It'll take a couple of hours to, it'll actually take a couple of days probably to talk about how machine learning model works. So yeah.
Yeah, the next question is, will chatbots replace mobile apps?
Chatbots can also be used as mobile apps, because, for example, I'm sure you have Siri, you have Google Assistant. When you say hello Google, or when you say Siri, it is also in some sense a chatbot, or Cortana on your desktop, on Windows desktop, Cortana. It is also a chatbot in some sense. It's a variant of a chatbot. So it will not replace mobile apps, but the front-end interface of the mobile app can be changed. Instead of having a text-based interface, which you have now to ask questions and to retrieve, you can change the interface to a conversational interface, a bot-like conversational interface. Instead of typing in text, you can actually speak. And there you'll have a natural language processing layer of the bot, which will then interact with the backend systems and give you the data what you want in a voice. So it's only one of the mechanisms. It won't replace. I don't think it'll replace the current intuitive, creative, graphical and UI and text-based bots. But it could certainly append or augment and amplify the current features of the existing applications by giving another channel of communication, which is voice, in addition to text.